Good evening, everyone. Welcome to meeting of New Jersey Electric Vehicle Association. Today is Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. My name is Stan Yarach. I'm the acting president, and we'll get started right now. If you would like to go through the deck at your own pace, please scan the QR code to access the deck. Our agenda today we'll start with chair report. I will go through the member update, chapter achievements and goals for 2025. Then we'll switch gears to our invited speaker, Tom Moloughney from State of Charge, and he's going to take us through what he's at best, which is EV charging. Tom's YouTube channel is indeed growing like a hell. And then we'll announce appreciation dinner for members and sponsors. We'll talk about some details and open discussion. Needless to say, discussion will be, of course, open after Tom Moloughney gives his presentation. So for those who are new, something about the Electric Vehicle Association. We are, our mission is to educate and advocate for rapid adoption of electric vehicles here in New Jersey. There are many chapters. The National Electric Vehicle Association, formerly Electric Auto Association, is North America's largest nonprofit that accelerates the adoption of electric vehicles by supporting about 100 chapters and thousands of members as they educate in their communities about the benefits of driving electric. We are involved in countless initiatives and projects throughout the US, and our national team coordinates and amplifies many of them for the public to see and experience. This is our website. This is the national website, myeva.org. The New Jersey EVA website is jerseyeva.org.
Hey, Stan, if I might just interrupt for 1 second, I just wanted to let you know we're not seeing anything if you're trying to share.
Oh, I thought that I am sharing.
I'm seeing the presentation.
Oh, you do? Okay. I'm not seeing it for some reason then.
I see it here, Stan.
Okay, very good. So that's odd. It never happens that Zoom selectively does not display to one person. We'll go to the next one. So membership updates. Last time, I reminded everyone to check their membership status. And voila, we've got lots of renewals and we got also new members. So please welcome Scott Cohen. Welcome Caroline McCallum. Caroline is the Deputy Director at New Jersey Clean Cities Coalition, and we do have very good collaboration with that organization because we are part of the Drive Electric. Lindsay McDowell, Francis Beverly. And among renewals, we have Peter Brammy, we have Alexander Brown, Robert Daly, who is on the call today, just like David Dragonetti, Alexandra Gerber, Sarah Heller. Sarah Heller is from Raritan Valley Community College. She's handling educational program for the future car repair people. Patrick McDevitt, Tom Moloughney. That name was already today mentioned and will be mentioned again. Linda Rockmaker, Andy Samsu, he's our program manager. Ron Wilson, and Anthony Witkowski from Tesla Owners Club. So last year, I realized that we do not have formal records of what we are doing and what is our achievement. So I decided to put together all the data from 2019 when the New Jersey chapter was opened. Actually, we were opened as Central Jersey chapter at that time. We didn't grow into New Jersey until 2022. So we have lots of achievements and we are increasing our impact in our state. As you can see, and not surprisingly, most of our achievements are EV shows. But we have also ride and drives, we have webinars, we have in-person presentations, and we also have first responder EV safety awareness, something that we are partnering with Mike Hornsby. He's a firefighter licensed, and he's also working at BPU at the energy storage program. So he's really expert in the subject. We have also lots of policy actions and testimonies. And we do have chapter in-person meetings, although not too many. It is hard to get everyone from the state into one place. And we do have virtual meetings such as this one. So what is our focus in 2025? We want to do more ride and drives. I'll just go back to the chart. You can see that in 2024, we had a little bit less of ride and drives, and these are very, very important because we want to get people behind the wheel of an electric vehicle, because that's how people actually start thinking seriously about them and adopting them. Because honestly, people don't buy cars to save the planet. They buy them because they need them, and there is a fun factor. So as you know, driving electric is a lot of fun. So we want to deliver that message. And we want to partner with Department of Environmental Protection, because that's what we had actually 2022, and it worked very well for us. And we lost it a little bit last year, so we want to renew that, as well as we want to engage more dealers and EV brands, such as, I'm going to skip T, and I'll continue to Lucid, Rivian. Yeah, there are not too many of those. So, but yeah, Tesla definitely. So the next program that we would like to elevate is first responder EV safety awareness that I mentioned. And that's partly because we want to alleviate the fear factor. Oftentimes we see that actually the first responders are afraid because when they see the news front pages, how electric vehicles catch fire, they think it's representative. They think that this is something extremely, extremely dangerous. They're afraid of electrocution at the same time as the fire. So we feel it's our responsibility as well to help those demographic to understand a little bit more about the safety of batteries at first place. And for that, we want to partner with New Jersey Clean Cities Coalition that I mentioned before, as well as with Easy Ride. We also want to focus on policy, and more specifically, we want to fight the unfair EV fee that we like to call punitive fee. Because as you know, $250 per year, regardless of how much you drive, is give or take an equivalent of Ford F-150 Lightning, some 12,000 to 14,000 miles a year. So that's a lot of driving for a vehicle that does not compare. So how does it also translate to our membership and subscribers? We do have growing membership base. Currently, by the end of 2024, we had 54 paying members, and we had over 1,000 subscribers. And subscribers is where the mass is, right? Now, looking into this chart, you can tell that our membership and subscriber growth is just about linear. However, the EV registrations in the state are exponential. So there is some opportunity for us to grow, and we need more members. So that's what I wanted to say. Those of you who are not members yet, we would like to invite you to join New Jersey EVA. Go to myeva.org, hit the join button, it will open another page, and you want to select sign up today. And that will get you to Club Express website, where you can select what type of membership you want to have. The basic membership is for $55 a year. Students have discounts, and youth are for free. So if you have your teenager who is interested, they are very welcome to join for free. And make sure that during the process that you select NJEVA, New Jersey Electric Vehicle Association, because there are so many chapters. Our chapter is a revenue share chapter. What it means that out of the $55 that you pay, $10 is attributed to our chapter, and we can use the funding at our choice. So that's about becoming member. And we have also sponsorship options. Our sponsorship is running from January to December. We were very fortunate. We had 3 sponsors in 2024. We had signature detailing at the $1,000 level. We had Sioka Chevrolet of Princeton for $1,000, and we had Genesco Motorsports at the 2,000 level. And we are offering lots of benefits to sponsors. Now, I would like to switch gears and invite our invited speaker, Tom Moloughney, founder of State of Charge. Tom is our New Jersey resident. He's our member, and he has been driving electric since 2008. His first electric vehicle was the Lease Mini E. And Tom developed his brand. He's now very well recognized. He receives invitations from OEMs to test electric vehicles. He is co-developer of the 70-mile-per-hour range test. He runs the vehicle down all the way to 0. I think you got stranded once with Chevy Bolt. Am I right?
That was the only time that actually didn't make it to the Charger with a Bolt. Oh, go figure.
Right. And that's because Chevy Bolt doesn't show a state of charge. You only rely on bars. So I do have the Gizmo, the device that can read state of charge. That does help. Tom, take it away. There you go.
Super. Well, thanks for the introduction, Stan. For those of you that don't know me, Stan did mention that I have a YouTube channel called State of Charge. I'm also senior editor for Inside EVs. I've been writing and covering the electric vehicle scene for 8 or 9 years now. Lifelong New Jersey resident. As Stan said, I've been driving EVs since 2008. I've owned 12, I guess now, different electric vehicles. I currently own a Chevy Bolt EV, a Chevrolet Equinox EV, a Ford F-150 Lightning, and a Rivian R1S. Those are the latest vehicles in my fleet. I don't need that many vehicles, but I do frequently buy and then sell them because I need them for content on State of Charge, which is a YouTube channel dedicated to electric vehicles, primarily charging electric vehicles. And I've chosen that lane specifically because I think the biggest impediment to getting somebody into an EV is to help them, or is for them to better understand charging. Most of the rest of the vehicles are roughly the same. There's a little bit difference with the braking systems, regenerative braking compared to a combustion vehicle that coasts. But otherwise, the vehicles are mostly the same. And the biggest pain point for somebody transitioning to electric is charging. So I thought that I would focus in on charging and try to provide educational, but hopefully entertaining content on electric vehicle charging to help better explain it so people understand it. Once they understand charging and feel a little bit more comfortable with it, they're a lot more likely to make that step to electric vehicle. And I know Stan has some questions prepared for me,
so that's a perfect segue to our questions. So the first question is that, so what actually comes first? Is the car, the electric car, or the charging station?
So, you'd be surprised how many people buy an EV or lease an EV and don't have charging planned. I would highly recommend that you understand what refueling your vehicle is going to entail before you get one. But if you do make that plunge before, chances are you're going to be okay, particularly if you're in control of your own electricity, i.e., with a private residence or where you live, you can plug in. That makes a big difference. It's not imperative, but it really does help if you can charge your vehicle at home. So, I would say what comes first, Stan, would definitely be to understand how you're going to refuel the vehicle, and perhaps either install a charger, an outlet, or if you don't drive a lot, you can maybe try out 120 volt charging initially, because for many people, although that it seems like that might not be enough, it actually is for a lot of people, depending on how far they drive and how efficient their EV is.
Very good. Thank you. So here is a question. So I just purchased my first EV, right? My dealer gave me a free charging deal from Electrify America for 2 years. I will use it as my main charging source and will install my home charger towards the end of the free period. Well, is this a good idea? And if not, why?
So, free is a powerful incentive, and I understand why automakers were doing that for a while. If you notice, most of them now at this point have pulled back that charging incentive, that free public charging incentive, and I'm highly in favor of that. I don't like these unlimited free charging programs. I think they're actually in the long term detrimental to the industry. And the reason why, Stan, is while yes, it's free and free is good. You get free electric. It's incentivizing what I consider a worse charging experience. And that is because if you can charge at home, by far the best place to charge is at home. It is not expensive. It is so much more convenient than driving to a public DC fast charger and sitting out somewhere in a Walmart parking lot for 45 minutes every Sunday night or something. What's your time worth? So, I talk to people about that. Use that free incentive when you're on road trips or on the odd occasion that you need to rapidly recharge your vehicle. But if you can charge at home, I definitely recommend people do that. With a level 2 charger at their house, and even if they got a free charging program, you could use it on occasion or when it's convenient to do if you have some time to kill at some point. But you definitely want to have your charging equipment ready at your house and use it as much as possible. In my opinion, I think it's a better ownership experience, and
absolutely,
that's why I recommend. It's hard to turn down free electricity, but it's not that expensive. Here in New Jersey, you could recharge your electric vehicle for about $15, depending on how big your battery is. And is $15 worth 45 minutes of your time sitting in a parking lot some night? It's not worth it to me. I'll tell you that.
Well, you will never charge from 0 to 100. So I do keep records. I don't think it's 15, but you've got the point, right? So next one. My commute is less than 40 miles a day. Should I install the top speed level 2 station at my home to future-proof it?
So, there's a big that depends. You have to see, first of all, what you should do is have a licensed electrician, preferably somebody who has experience installing electric vehicle charging equipment. Come out to your house and do a load calculation to see how much available capacity you have at your house without having to pay for an expensive upgrade. If you have the capacity to install a high-powered charger, it's not a bad idea to future-proof your garage, but I don't want people to feel like that's absolutely necessary, because most people, to be honest with you, even if they install a 48 amp charger on a 60 amp circuit, would be totally fine charging their car at 24 amps, let's say. So it's not necessary, but it's not a bad idea if financially it's not a strain on your budget, and if your house has that extra capacity, because down the road, it may come of use. You may have two EVs at the house, or you might have your driving patterns might change. You might need to drive a lot every day, and having it there, not having to go pull out what you did, pull a new wire on a higher amp circuit isn't a bad idea. But I like to stress to everybody, don't stress over that. If that's out of your budget and installing a lower circuit and charging slower is what you can afford, do that, because 90% of the time, more than 90% of the time, that's all you need. Charging at like 24 amps or 30 amps is gonna recharge almost everybody's battery overnight.
Right. And I'll just compliment that myself personally, I actually wanted to show you my charging station. It's still in the garage. I have upgraded portable cable that came with my second electric vehicle, which was 2015 Nissan Leaf, and it operates at 16 amps at 240 volts. And I use that one for two vehicles. For my vehicle, one night I charge my vehicle, the second night my wife's vehicle, and the third night that charging is just idling, is doing nothing because I still didn't run out of charge. And I do have a long distance commute. I mean, I'm a hybrid, so I do not need to charge it every night. But yeah, I have like 90 miles a day. My wife, she has about 15 to 20, and this is more than enough. Now, granted, if our vehicle is Rivian R1S, that would need more kilowatt hours per mile, or it would give less miles per kilowatt hour, which translates into longer charging times per given output. So that's kind of my compliment here.
Yeah, you need to know what your usage is going to be, what type of vehicles you're driving, how many miles you'll be driving. But as you said, Stan, many people can live just fine with lower powered charging and not have to have any problems. I think so many people just immediately when they get their EV, they want to install a charger that can charge at the maximum rate because they are worried about, is this going to be charged? They understand gas. They still don't understand electric yet. But then after living with the car for a little while, they realize, oh, wow, I could charge at a much lower rate and I'd still be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Now, since you went through many brands, what brand would you recommend for home charging?
Wow, that's a tough one. There's no one charger that's the best charger. A lot of people ask me what's the best electric vehicle charger. There is no one best. Depends on what features you want, what power you want. Are you going to install it outside? Some of them have better weather proof features than some of the other ones. But I really like Emporia brand, the Grizzle E brand, one of the reasons why I keep going back to those two brands is they're packed with features. They're very well made and they're affordable. When I give my charger reviews, a lot of my ratings are based on price because there's some units out there. Like take for instance, I'm reviewing this unit right now. It's behind me. It's the new Flow X5. It's a fantastic unit, absolutely great unit, super weatherproof ratings, has tons of features. But it's $749. And meanwhile, I have chargers in the garage here that have just about all the features that has, and they're $399. So, while it's a great unit, high quality, stylish, it has a lot of features. It's hard for me to give it as high or even close to as high a rating as the chargers that cost half as much of it. So, if somebody asked me for the best bang for the buck, today, the two brands are probably Emporia and Grizzle E for the best bang for the buck.
Very good, very good. By the way, did you test? So last no, it was 2 months ago. We had a presenter, David Syriacs. He developed flat charger. The company is called Ghost. Have you heard about it? Did you have a chance to test it?
I haven't yet, Stan. I have a lot of companies requesting me to review their products. But I do comprehensive reviews. It takes me a while. It takes me a couple of weeks to review one charger. So, you just do the math and,
Wow.
I can't review 100 of them a year, so it's, I have boxes of them lined up in the garage here that are waiting to be reviewed. So no, I haven't reviewed that one yet.
Okay, next one. Can I install EVSE in my home by myself? If so, what advice would you give me?
Well, you could do brain surgery by yourself if you wanted to, but I don't recommend that either. I don't recommend people installing their own charging equipment. I know if you open them up, it looks pretty simple. It's 3 wires. So, how do I mess that up? The problem is even licensed electricians are making egregious mistakes when they install electric vehicle charging equipment, because electric vehicle charging equipment is different than any other device in your house. When you're using it, it's drawing more power than the rest of your house combined. And in many instances, it's drawing more power than your entire house and your neighbor's house together at the same time. And it does so for many continuous hours, sometimes 5-6 hours a night, 6-7 days a week. So all of the connections inside electric vehicle charging equipment are under a different type of strain, a strain that no other appliance in your household undergoes. And if all of the connections aren't made just right, and by being just right, all of the connections have specific torque ratings that the manufacturer puts out. You need a torque wrench. You can't just say, yeah, that's tight enough. It has to be torqued. All the connections need to be torqued to the specific amount. And if they're not, they will loosen up over time. And then people say, well, then I'll just crank down as hard as I can. This screw isn't going to loosen up. Well, what you'll do then is you'll squish the wire so much that it'll be thinner than what it's supposed to be. And it'll end up melting or derating, arcing. And then you have at the least that can happen is the unit fails. The worst that can happen is you have a fire in your house. And, I highly recommend using qualified licensed electricians, pulling a permit, having it inspected. This isn't just installing a ceiling fan or an outlet in your house. This device is going to draw more power than anything else in your house. Have a professional install it, please.
Next one. Do I need a smart EVSE at home to control when my EV charges?
You don't need smart chargers. Well, let me back that up. Most people don't need smart chargers. Some people actually benefit from having one because they have features that you might want. For instance, I know some people install their chargers outside of their house. They don't have a garage. So it's mounted outside their house and they charge their car in their driveway. Some of these smart chargers have access control features where in your app, you can just turn the charger off. So somebody doesn't use your charger while you're at work or whatever. I've heard stories of that. People come home from work and there's a car in their driveway and somebody's charging. So as crazy as it sounds, this does happen. And if you might live in a condo complex, let's say, and you've gotten permission to install your charger outside where your parking spot is, you don't want people charging while you're working. So they have access control. Another reason what smart chargers do is you can enter in how much you pay for electricity, and it'll give you monthly reports on exactly how much your car costs to charge. Without that, people really don't know how much their car costs them to charge. When you go to a gas station how much you pay, but when you just plug your car in your garage, that electricity gets mixed up with all the other electric in your house. So you really don't know what you're paying. But the smart chargers have settings in their apps that can give you weekly and monthly reports, so you know exactly how much you're paying. But then again, that's not, your question was, do you need that? No, you don't. You don't need those reports. They're nice to have. You can also remotely start and stop a charging session from your app. However, many of the new electric cars offer a lot of these features either within the car. You could set scheduling, you could limit the amount of charge that the car takes in, and even the apps that come with the cars allow you sometimes to manipulate the charging. So you certainly don't need a smart charger. It's a luxury. It's like a lot of things. People don't buy just what they need; they buy what they want, and smart chargers usually cost $100 to $200 more than a basic charger that's just plug and play.
Yeah.
But for some people, they like having those bells and whistles. Yeah. But to bluntly answer your question, most people do not need a smart charger.
And I want to also add, speaking of measuring the energy consumption, you mentioned the brand Emporia. You can get Emporia View, which is a device that you install at the panel level, and you can monitor energy consumption of all of your circuits or selected circuits, particularly the one that is wired for your EV charging. So that's an option as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Next one. I have a level 2 charger at home for my EV. My spouse plans to buy an EV as well. Should I get another EV SE?
First off, I would say no. See how well you can work with sharing that one unit between the two cars. I know a lot of people that have two EVs in their household, and they just use one charger because most people don't need to plug in every night. So, they'll just alternate nights. They'll say, every when you get home, if your spouse's car is charging, then you'll charge the next day. But if you get home and they're not plugged in, you grab it and you plug it in. So in most instances, one EVSE or charger is going to be fine for two vehicles. That said, there are some chargers today, smart chargers in particular, that allow you to install two units with just one circuit to your panel, so that if you did want to install a second charger in the future, you don't have to run another line from your panel, which could be very expensive. And then between the two, they intelligently balance the power, so you'll never overdraw the one circuit that you have pulled. So there's options, but what I would tell people, if they get a second EV in the household, initially just try to live with the one unit, and most people will find that that's more than adequate.
Okay, next one. I don't think I can adopt an EV because I don't have a garage to install a charging station. What are my choices? And if I want to charge, my choices, if I want to charge at home, yeah.
Okay, so let's say you don't have a garage, but you still have a house. You can still install the charger on the side of the house and just plug in the driveway. Plenty of people do that. Nearly all of them made and sold today are rated for outdoor use, all seasons, snow, as cold as it gets, as hot as it gets. So they wouldn't have a problem with that. They could plug in the garage. I've known some people to actually share a charger with like neighbors or people they know on the block, where the two of them split the electricity bill and they share one charger. If you can't install it at your house, there's depending on where you live, there's public level 2 chargers in some locations that you might be able to plug in and walk home. And there's also workplace charging, which is it's getting bigger and bigger. A lot of large companies that have big parking lots are starting to install chargers at their workplace, and it's a good incentive for employees. And if you can't charge at home, you might be able to charge at work. So there are options. You don't need to be inside a garage charging your vehicle. There's a lot of other ways you can charge it. And to be honest with you, you could even, even though I think this is the least best way of recharging your vehicle, you could just follow the gasoline model and go to a DC fast charger once a week and charge up. But I use that as a last resort.
Right. Okay. Now, my house does not have enough capacity to install EVSE, and service upgrade is very expensive. Is there any technical solution available now or in the future?
So you've got a bunch of possibilities. Number one, there are smart circuit splitters that are on the market. One's called NeoCharge, one is called Split Volt. I have them on the wall over here that allow you to plug into your electric dryer plug and then plug both the dryer and the charger's cable into it. And what it'll do is when the dryer is being used, it gets precedent and it will get the power and your car charging will shut off. But whenever the dryer is not being used, that circuit can charge your electric vehicle, typically at 24 amps. So that's one solution. You can just share the circuit that your electric dryer's on. Most people have electric dryers or an electric range. That's one solution. Another solution, there's new companies are coming out with these meter collars that are for electric vehicle chargers. The one company that I just did a video on is called Connector, where the meter gets pulled and this it's a meter socket adapter gets installed, and then the meter goes on top of it, and it allows you to pull current directly from the meter before it gets to your electrical panel. And it'll intelligently manage how much power your house is using. So if your house and the car charging comes close to exceeding what the service panel's limit is, the car charging shuts off until that lowers, and then it starts back up. So that's one. Solution. And yeah, I think you're pulling up the connector. That's how it gets installed there for those that are watching. And then that unit there gets wired to the car charger. So it's a new product. It's not available in New Jersey yet, but they have them submitted to JCP&L and PSE&G for approval. It's approved in 4 or 5 different states, but not here in New Jersey yet. We're hoping that it gets approved soon. I think this is an important thing that can really help democratize charging for people that have very small service panel, 100 amp service panels. There's a lot of older homes with like 100 amp service panels. They can't install an electric car charging circuit. So maybe our friend at the BPU that we have in here today can talk to JCP&L and PSE&G and try to get this thing approved. It's extremely safe. They have thousands of them installed around the country in different utility districts in different states. But I'm hoping that this gets approved in New Jersey sometime soon, because what this helps is economically disadvantaged folks. This isn't something that, the $5 million house in Bedminster would use. This is what people that have small circuits, small services, and can't afford a service upgrade. It lets them directly wire their charger to their service panel.
Very good. Okay, let me go.
If I don't know if you guys can hear me, if that's at all possible, but I would love for you to send me some more information on this. Is the guy from the BPU? If you could send me some more information on that, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yes, if you can please. Actually, I have your email from the registration. Fine. Good.
Great. Thank you.
What's the name of that product?
Connector.
Connect, D-E-R.
D-R, yeah. And if you go to my channel, State of Charge on YouTube, about 3 weeks ago, I did a 40-minute video on it where I drove up to Vermont because it's approved throughout all of Vermont. Green Mountain Power has approved it. And where they were installing one at a customer's house in Vermont, and I had a pretty comprehensive video on it.
Yeah, let's go. Yes, and
I can put you in touch with the company principals, the CEO and their engineers and everything.
Right.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Good. Let's go to the next one. I have heard that charging an EV is as expensive as gassing up. Is it true?
Yeah, there's a lot of articles and stuff you read online where it says, oh, it cost me, it costs more than gas. And the fact of the matter is that is based in some truth in that depends on where you charge. For most of New Jersey, we pay 17, 18 cents a kilowatt hour all in. So, a vehicle with 100 kilowatt hour battery, let's say, like my Chevy Equinox has a 90 kilowatt hour battery. It cost me about $16 to fully charge it. and I can go 300, 320 miles on $16. You could never do that on gasoline. I don't care how efficient the car is. The most efficient hybrid can't go can't go over 300 miles on $16. Yet, if you go to some DC fast chargers, depending on which network and if you have a membership or not. I recently had a Chevy Silverado EV, the electric pickup truck that Chevrolet put out. I was on loan from the company. They gave it to me to do reviews and so forth. And I went to an EV Go station, and I didn't have a membership with EV Go, so I paid like the non-member rate of 64 cents a kilowatt hour. It cost me $200 to charge the Silverado EV. So you couldn't pay that much. You couldn't pay that much to refuel a combustion Silverado car, truck. No matter where you bought gas or diesel, it wouldn't cost $200. So some of the articles that talk about how EVs cost more to charge, they're not telling the whole story. Could you pay more to charge an EV? Yeah, you could. If you don't have a membership, if you have a really large battery in your EV. But typically, in most instances, over the lifetime of the vehicle, unless you charge exclusively at DC fast chargers, and if you did charge exclusively, you would join that network and become a member, and then you pay like 30% less for like $10 a month or something like that. So it would be comparable to gasoline. If you exclusively charge at DC fast chargers, unless you have a very small, efficient electric vehicle, I would tell people expect to pay comparable to what gasoline costs, maybe a little bit less. But that's not how most people charge. Most people don't use DC fast chargers as their exclusive method of charging. They use those when they're on road trips. And then, once in a while, if once a month or once every 2 months, you pay a little more because you're driving up to Vermont or down to North Virginia or North Carolina or something, you don't mind paying an extra $10. But daily charging, it's probably about 30 to 40% of what it would cost you to refuel a combustion vehicle, a comparable combustion vehicle here in New Jersey, because our electricity prices are around the national average. There's places in the country that are much less than New Jersey, where it's really inexpensive to drive an EV. I mean, Washington State, I think they pay 6 cents a kilowatt hour. But then there's other states where they pay 35, 40 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah. Okay, next one. I have heard that there is not enough public DC fast charging stations, and those that are built are not reliable or available. For that reason, I think I should buy a plug-in hybrid EV. Is this a good strategy?
So I think a lot of people that don't need to stress over public charging because they're still in the gasoline model. They're still thinking they're going to be going somewhere to refuel their vehicle all of the time. And that typically just isn't the ownership experience unless you can't charge at home. If you live in an apartment complex or apartment building and you need to rely on public chargers. Most people are going to use public charging for less than 10% of their charging. So worrying about something that's such a small use case is I think it's folly. But the truth of the matter is there are some sites that are unreliable. The networks are getting better. More and more chargers are being installed every week. Chargers get added. There's new equipment out that's better and more reliable than the charging equipment that was around just 2 or 3 years ago. There's a new network called Iona that's coming out, and they're using highly reliable Alpatronic chargers. They're going to have like 30,000 DC fast chargers installed in the next 4 to 5 years. And even Electrify America, whose first generation of equipment was kind of unreliable, they're replacing all of that stuff with their second generation equipment, which is much more robust and reliable. So while there are some sites that have kind of spotty reliability records, more and more chargers are being installed, and the chargers that are out there are getting more reliable. And then finally, one last thing to say about that. All of the cars are now gaining access to Tesla superchargers. And the separate Tesla supercharger network, which Tesla opened up for other manufacturers just last year, is highly reliable. Uptime of well above 95%. And on all their locations, they have a lot of chargers. So if one's broken, it really doesn't matter. So that in itself is going to make public charging so much easier for non-Tesla vehicles. The fact that by the end of this year, every make is going to have access to Tesla superchargers.
Awesome. Awesome. Let me go. So, and I just want to say that although we, as a, pioneers for electric vehicles, we try to stay away from plug-in hybrids. As advocates, at the same time, if this is a matter of you guys driving gas car versus adopting plug-in hybrid, then yes, get the plug-in hybrid. I know many people who were just like that. They were afraid, so they got plug-in hybrid. And yes, after a while, they said, well, yeah, I'm not really using the gas engine. I figured it out. And some people, they're happy that they have it, right? So, I mean, there are so many circumstances depending how much you drive and what electric range has your plug-in hybrid, because some of those like Toyota Prius Prime, if that thing has 25 electric miles, you are going to hit the gas quite often, and you will get justification for your purchase. So yeah. Next one. I'm on a road trip. Finally, I was able to find DCFC and initiated the charging session. I will charge to 100% so that I don't have to go through the wait again. Is it a good decision?
So I always, well, I never recommend charging to 100% on DC fast chargers. And there's a number of reasons. In many electric vehicles, it takes longer to charge from 80% to 100% on a DC fast charger than it does to charge from 10% to 80%. And that's because as the state of charge rises, the amount of power that batteries can take in lowers. It's not the same as home charging, where the charging session is relatively linear, accepts the same amount of power the whole time till the very end. With electric vehicle DC fast charging, most vehicles take a lot of power in the beginning at a low state of charge and then gradually lower down. And by the time they're at 80 or 85%, they're taking like a tenth of what they were taking when it was at 10 to 20% battery state of charge. So I think it's a very bad policy to stay to 100% for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's not great for your battery to charge a DC fast charger all the way up to 100%. Number two, it's going to take you really long to go from 80 to 100%. And now you're taking up a spot that somebody else could be pulling in. So it's actually much faster on a long, let's say you were going on a long road trip and you needed more than 80% to get to your destination. But if you charge to 100%, you could make it there. So that people would say, well, I'm just going to go to 100%, then I can make it so I don't have to stop again. You would get there faster if you stopped at 80%, or even if you stopped at 70%, unplugged, and drove and stopped at another DC fast charger and just charged up to make it to the destination, provided there's another charger along your route on the way. You would get there actually much faster than if you waited till you charge to 100%. And we've proven this time and time. Me and a friend of mine, Kyle Connor, who runs another channel, do these road trip races all the time. And it's proven that, quite honestly, for most electric vehicles, the fastest route, and we've driven coast to coast to prove this, from New York to California, from Washington State to Maine, to see which method is fastest. The fastest way to get to your destination is to charge to about 60% and unplug, and then drive down to like 5 or 10%, plug in again, charge to 60%, go if you're on a very long road trip. So there's a lot of reasons why it's really not good to stay to DC fast charger to 100%. It's not good for your battery. It's a waste of time. And you might be hogging that station for someone else that needs to plug in.
Very good. And you are pretty much answering my next question, where I have a scenario that, I'm driving, I have 50%, and I'm seeing fast charging station, and I'm thinking, well, yeah, let me plug it in. But as you mentioned, it's better to run it as low as you feel comfortable. because then you will get the recharging rate much faster.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely never go to a DC fast charger above 20% state of charge. Never. No matter where I'm going to, I always make sure I'm under 20%. So the vehicle, so I have to, I can shorten my stay as much as possible.
Right. Okay. Next one. Finally, I pull to the DC fast charging station. I plug in my electric vehicle, but it charges much slower than advertised. Why is it happening?
There's a lot of reasons. It could be the charging station, number one. There's some charging stations deliver more power than others. And there's some charging stations that say they're rated for 200 kilowatts, let's say, and your electric vehicle can only charge to 150 kilowatts. So you say, well, I should be able to charge to 150 kilowatts, but that's not how it works with the DC fast charge stations. Depends on what voltage your battery pack is at. So most of the 200 kilowatt DC fast chargers here in New Jersey, if you pull up with your electric vehicle, most electric vehicles can only max out at 80 kilowatts because of they're based on 400 volt battery systems. There's some EVs that are based on 800 volt battery systems. Those EVs can charge all the way up to 200 kilowatts, but your EV will max out at about 80 kilowatts. And you're wondering, so geez, you know, I should be able to charge to 150 kilowatts here, and all I can get is 80. That's one reason. Another reason, the DC fast charger could be limited. Sometimes when there's problems with the DC fast charger, the company remotely limits the amount of current it can deliver, so it delivers lower current. They prefer that rather than shutting the charger off, which I think is a good decision on their part. There's another reason is now that it's winter here in New Jersey, when batteries are cold, they can't accept the amount of power they can when they're warm. A battery, to get its maximum DC fast charging rate, wants to be above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you let your battery sit outside overnight here in New Jersey, or even just driving, it's 22 degrees today or 20 degrees, the battery is going to be around 30, 35 degrees probably by the morning. And you drive right over to a DC fast charger and plug in, it will not charge at the rate that you hope it will, at its maximum rate. It'll take a while for the battery to warm up to actually charge at a higher rate. So many of the new EVs now have battery preconditioning, is what they call it. And you can turn on battery preconditioning, sometimes from your app, sometimes in the car, to start warming up the battery. And some other EVs will automatically turn on battery warming if you enter the DC fast charger as a destination in your navigation system, because then the car knows, oh, he's going to a DC fast charger. My battery's cold. Let me warm it up for him. So that's something that's really important. And some of you might have heard last year in Chicago, there was a big problem where it got really cold and all the DC fast chargers had long lines and they were backed up and people couldn't charge, and it was like a nightmare. It was on all the news, and some of the anti-EV people really jumped on it as saying, look, this just is never going to work. And the real reason behind that, well, there was a couple of reasons, but one of the reasons was a lot of the people didn't understand that the cars are going to charge slower in the winter when it's really cold. And a lot of these people worked for car sharing services where they didn't own the car. They just kind of rented it so they could drive Uber. And then when they went to the charging station, instead of taking 15 minutes like they're used to, it was taking an hour. Well, it was because the battery was like at 10 degrees, so it couldn't accept a lot of power. So if you do own an EV, and investigate if it has battery warming, battery preconditioning. And in the winter months in particular, make sure you turn on battery preconditioning at least a half an hour before you get to the DC fast charger, and you'll charge faster.
Very good. Thank you. Now, it sounds counterintuitive that a cold battery can fast charge. Why can't batteries warm up directly through charging? Like, just pump the energy in and it will warm up, right?
Well, they're like the battery preconditioning systems I just talked about kind of does that. Like, there's different type of BMS systems that warm the battery up, but it takes a while because batteries are thick and dense, and they will slowly warm up as the car is charging, because just the act of charging or discharging a battery warms the cells. That chemical reaction will warm the cells, but it takes a while. If it were to try to do it too quickly, it would damage the cells. So it's going to take a little while before it reaches the proper temperature.
Is there any risk of that damage other than property damage when you charge fast the cold battery?
No, the car has intelligence built into its battery management system. It's called,
but what I'm trying to say is that some people would think of circumventing, not that it's possible, but what is the scientific reason why you don't want to fast charge cold battery?
well, the cells themselves can't accept that power without damage, without they'll denigrate. You'll have capacity loss.
Could you have a fire?
Well, yeah, if I mean the cars are engineered to not allow that to happen, but if like you said, somebody somehow, was able to hack their car and allow it to accept more power, the cells could potentially, you could have a problem. But I mean, I've never heard of that ever happening. But anything would happen if you were to try to circumvent the vehicle. There's a reason why the vehicle limits the amount the power it takes in when the battery's at a certain temperature. If you try to circumvent
I know. Yeah. It's just that those early days, there was a fire of Tesla, I think it was 2013 or something, in Norway. And they did analysis and it didn't happen again. It's because those dendrites, right? So if you charge it too fast, the dendrites, it's a metallic lithium that it will grow on the surface of anode instead of intercalating. Mm-hmm. And then if it grows all the way to cathode, then you get short circuit.
Right. And I think Tesla learned a lot. Tesla was a pioneer and they learned a lot about just how hard they could push their batteries without having to without having long-term problems. And this is one issue that was realized early on. But I try, it depends on the audience that I'm talking to. I try not to get too technical and too deep dive into the chemistries of batteries and so forth, Stan, because I think sometimes that scares people because they're like, I don't want to get an electrical. I don't want to have to learn about chemistry and battery cells and so forth.
I tell you, well, I'm the chemist here, right? And the truth about chemistry is that you either love it or you hate it, right? So when I passionately talk about chemistry, I may kind of ignore the fact that somebody else can get scared, but that's my bias, and that's why I had to mention it. But anyway, I a little bit digressed. Thank you for bearing with me. So we have one more question. Is it true that batteries will degrade when fast charged?
So ideally, in a perfect world, if you took a battery and all you did was DC fast charge it, and you had another car, the same car, same age, and all you did was charge it very slowly on level 1 or level 2, and both these cars had 200,000 miles on it, the car that you DC fast charge the battery would have degraded more than the car that you use level 2. But more and more information that we're getting is proving that it's not that much more. It's the battery management systems, the BMSs in the cars, the system that doesn't let you charge the vehicle too fast when the battery's cold, or too fast when the battery's super hot, or at too high of a speed when it's at 80%, 85, 90% charge. It lowers the charge rate. You charge slowly. These systems are keeping the battery healthy, even with DC fast charging. So I would not worry about that. For most people, unless all you do is DC fast charge and you constantly DC fast charge the car up to 100%, which isn't a good policy to begin with, charging your vehicle to 100%, you're not going to notice that much different battery degradation over somebody that doesn't DC fast charge much. The early days, the Nissan Leaf didn't have proper battery management system. That those batteries were degrading badly if you DC fast charged a lot. But all of the new EVs that are on the market today, they have sophisticated thermal management systems, And the thermal management is what keeps the battery healthy.
Very good, very good. Now, let's open it to the audience for their questions. And I'm just going through the chat. Some questions are not related to this topic, and we'll get to them. But here, David is asking, I plan on installing a Grizzly E Duo in the next few months when we acquire a third electric vehicle, waiting for United Chargers to offer the option of one NACS and one J1772 connector, which was planned but now delayed. Any idea why it was delayed?
So I don't know a specific reason why. If I were to guess, and I'll ask, I know the owners, United Chargers, Gleb Nikiforov. I'll ask him the next time I see him or talk to him. I would imagine more than anything, it's simply bandwidth. It's a small company. Gleb runs that company. He's not like ChargePoint where there's hundreds and maybe thousands of employees. It's a small company up in Canada with a factory that he bought the land and built everything out himself. And I think his biggest problem is bandwidth, is having enough people there to get everything done. And that might, the Duo isn't a high volume charger for him. There's not a lot of people that, are going for the Duo. He sells a good amount of them, but it's not like his bread and butter. So it's perhaps the fact that he just hasn't gotten to it. I know there was a delay on him getting the NACS connectors for some reason. I think it had something to do with the cables and the connectors were coming from China, and I think we put like a tariff or banned the import of a component that's in the connector or something like that. I know they weren't the only company. Other companies were having problems getting the NACS connectors, so that could be it. He might be having trouble sourcing the connectors.
Okay. We have a question from Ken Hunnell. Speaking of the pricing at DC fast charging stations, is it pretty much just copying the cost to deliver the electricity, or is it kind of adjusted to match somehow the cost of gasoline?
I don't think the companies are intentionally trying to match the price of gasoline. It's incredibly expensive to install DC fast charging infrastructure. Incredibly expensive. I mean,
oh yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars per charger. So if you've got a site where, you've got 7 or 8 chargers, you're talking, a few $1 million for that site. And then they're paying electricity rates. They're paying demand charges. I don't know. Again, our friend at the BPU could probably talk a little bit about that. Demand charges are incredibly onerous. They make the cost of electricity cost a lot more. I know that firsthand because I used to own a piece of property in Montclair and I installed a level 2 charger and a DC fast charger on it. And the demand charges made it impossible for me to ever even break even. No matter how much I charged for the electricity, I lost money every month on the site. Now I didn't have high utilization at the time. The whole key to making money or even breaking even on these DC fast charging sites, they need incredibly high utilization. There has to be cars plugged in all the time. If there's not, I don't care what you charge. You could charge $1 a kilowatt hour. You won't make money. So I don't think they're trying to match gasoline prices. I think they're just doing the numbers and trying to figure out where they could be at to actually, start recouping the money that they installed that they put out to install these sites. They're incredibly expensive DC fast charging sites.
We have a question from Yev Naginsky. I don't know. He's asking about the best way to get a home charger for Tesla Model Y. I think that when you buy Tesla, you have an option to buy portable cable or the hard wiring, and I've heard that the portable is pretty good. It can do what, 30 or 32 amps?
32 amps is the
32.
Tesla's portable charging cable. Very good unit. But if you want something hanging on the wall, like right behind me here, that's the Tesla universal wall connector, super unit. Also, Tesla makes really good charging equipment. You don't have to buy Tesla equipment. you could use a charger from any brand. Like a lot of people ask me this question all the time. Do I need to buy the charger my company sells? That makes no difference. But Tesla happens to make very good electric vehicle charging equipment. So, I would probably tell you that would be a good place to start. This unit here is a really solid unit. It's one of my top rated units that Tesla sells.
Now, let's go to the question that is a little bit off. I am not sure whether neither me or you can answer it. So let's have it open to anyone in the audience. When Charge Up New Jersey introduced the home charger subsidy program with JCP&L and PSE&G, the power companies had a short list of chargers which were approved. Are these programs still active? Do you know the answer, Tom?
At firstenergycorp.com. So yeah, there is still something available if they haven't run out of money.
Okay. I see another question here that Robert Daly asked about charging on DC best practice. Robert, what kind of EV do you own?
I have a Genesis GV60. So
okay.
It's got the right software. I mean, it has built-in free charging.
Yeah.
What were you talking about before?
Yeah.
Battery conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah. So I asked because some vehicles have larger buffers than others, battery buffers. I don't know if you know what that is, but you whatever size your battery is, you don't get to access all of it. Like you probably have the 77 kilowatt hour battery. Is that what you have, or the 80 kilowatt hour? 77 kilowatt hour battery. Yeah. The gross capacity, I think, is only like 81 kilowatt hour. It's something like that. Maybe 82, something like that. It's not a lot. Hyundai and Kia doesn't have a large buffer on their batteries. Some of the other automakers have larger buffers. And on the vehicles that don't have as large a buffer, I personally recommend 80% on a DC fast charger. For instance, there's like my Lightning. It's got 131 kilowatt hour usable, but the gross capacity is like 150 kilowatt hours. So it's got a large buffer, and I'd feel more comfortable if the EV you had a bigger buffer. I mean, you have just a couple percent of a buffer, smaller than what a lot of other EVs have. And that's been the trend that the car makers are doing now. 4 or 5 years ago, the buffers were much bigger. They were like 10% of the battery or almost. But now everything's getting so competitive that they're opening up more and more capacity for usable capacity because they want their EVs to have better EPA range ratings. And that could be at the expense of longevity. The battery engineers I've talked to said that's not the case. We're opening up more capacity because now we have data showing that we can open up more capacity. It won't hurt the battery. But if you're using that as your primary charging, 85% is probably what I'd recommend. When you're on a road trip, if you really want to charge more, that go right at it. But is this a vehicle that you're going to own and you want to keep for a long time? Is it on a 3-year lease and you're going to give it back? I wouldn't tell you to damage the battery just because you're not going to own it and stiff the next guy. But that's something to consider. If I wanted to keep my EV for a long time, I probably wouldn't DC fast charge much beyond 80%. At home, daily charging, if I was charging on a level 2, 90% I'd be okay with. But on a DC fast charger, I'd probably stop at 80.
Yeah.
You know what? What was that metric you gave on your Ford F-150 in terms of the buffer? What was the percentage?
Oh, the gross capacity is a little over 150. I don't have the exact numbers. It might be 154. And the usable capacity is 131.
If you guys don't mind, we are a little bit behind, so I want to cut it now. Tom, thank you so much. It was fantastic to have you here. Thank you for answering all those questions. And I have one more slide, or maybe two, and that is our next meeting. And here comes the exciting announcement, because part of looking into our achievements, we are really celebrating our success and impact in the state. We are grateful for the support from our members, from our sponsors, and other stakeholders. So to show our appreciation, we are hosting a dinner. It will be next month on Tuesday, February 11th, 2025, between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. It'll be in the NRG Energy Facility in Carnegie Center in Princeton. To make a reservation, scan the QR code, and the invitation is for paying members. So you want to make sure that you are a paying member. If you would like to join us, the easiest way is to join our organization, and that will give you the tickets to this dinner. In the spirit of sustainability, please bring your reusable water bottle. If you want to take it to the next level, you may also choose to bring your own plate, cutlery, or takeaway food container. We will have EV charging available. There are like 16 level 2 ports. And there's also CHAdeMO and CCS1. So this is pretty exciting. I think they are capped at 50 kilowatts, but it's still pretty good given the fact that we'll be there for 2 hours. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I think that we are at the top of the hour, but if you guys have anything to discuss, go ahead now.
Hey, Tom, if I could ask just one thing, and really not now because it's kind of late for everybody, but at some point maybe we could connect. So you could give me an idea of where you see the future of charging and of battery technology going. What do the next 3 to 5 years and beyond look like? It's too long a discussion now, but maybe we could find a chance to connect.
Well, I tell you where there is a lot of noise, which is, I say noise, but in a good sense. We are talking about general electrification. And it's not just electric vehicles, but because we want to have renewable energy, right, which is intermittent. And we want to power the entire home. We want to switch from natural gas, or I should say earth gas heating to heat pump, right? And the whole thing is kind of throwing the grid into a different state where it used to be. And the big component of it is energy storage, right? So yes, we can talk about having stationary energy storage, but we can also use our electric vehicles to store energy and to have them bidirectional. As much as it sounds exciting, I'm seeing a little bit issue here, and the issue is purely societal. Because as we were discussing early on, the best charging is at home, and not everyone has access to home charging, right? And those who are privileged that they have home charging, they would be first on the line to benefit from bidirectional charging, right? Because imagine you would be charging your vehicle when it's cheapest, regardless of whether it comes from solar or from grid. Pretty much, the utility will dictate when it's the cheapest. And then you would be discharging when electricity is expensive, right? Now, who is going to be paying for that? Well, those guys who need to charge their car, but they cannot charge at home. Those will be charging when they return from work or on their way home, right? And charging between 5 and 8 p.m., that's the worst time, speaking of grid stabilization. So I think that, from technical viewpoint, bidirectional charging, it's awesome. It's beautiful, but there is some potential for inequity.
Arbitrage. A general type of financial arbitrage. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
All right. Very important conversation for another day, but I really want to thank everybody.
Tom wanted to say something.
No, I was just going to jump on what you said. The question was, where do you see charging going? I do see more and more bidirectional charging being introduced. Pretty much all the manufacturers are working on it. All the charging companies that make home charging equipment are working on bidirectional chargers. And I do think that that is going to, over the course of the next, 5 to 7 years, we're going to see that be common, that all the electric vehicles sold will have bidirectional capability. I think we're a few years away from that, but I think by the end of this decade, that's going to be normal. That's for home charging, AC charging. And for DC fast charging, I think what we're going to see over the course of the next few years is the speeds are going to get insanely fast. You have to look at China. China is a leader in electric vehicles, or by far the world leader in electric vehicle battery technology and charging technology. There's chargers in China that are regularly charging vehicles now at 600 kilowatts. I mean, it's the fastest electric vehicle here that can charges at about 350 kilowatts and only does it for a short period of time. So, if you imagine a vehicle that can charge at 600 kilowatts, you're looking at comparable recharging times to gasoline. We're talking about 5-6 minutes and adding 250 miles to your car. Yeah. So we will get there.
And also we need the fast charging for the trucks as they are coming up. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's already in the works, but for sure you're going to see that. Now I probably made Zenon's head explode when I talked about 600 kilowatt chargers being installed in the state because of the power demand that those things take. But you guys over at the BPU are smart. You'll figure out how to get the generation up so that we can install these chargers wherever we need them.
We're working on it.
Okay. Any other questions?
I was interested to ask Tom as well. What do you, kind of in the same category as the last question, what do you say to the people that feel as though our grid is not going to be ready for rapid EV adoption?
So I've done some videos on this. I've talked to representatives for New York Power and Light, representatives from California utilities. I think it was Sacramento Municipal Utility District, some of the areas where the highest concentration of electric vehicle adoption has been so far. I've talked to people in utilities across the country, and almost all of them say, as long as we know it's coming, we can handle it. The problem is when we don't see something, where we don't see a spike in demand coming and we're not ready for it. We know these cars are coming. We're watching adoption rates increase. We're talking to the manufacturers about what are their plans. How many EVs do you think are going to be on the road in the state of New Jersey in next year, in 26 and 27 and 28? And they're starting to study that and know ahead of time how much capacity they're going to need. And as Stan talked a little bit about energy arbitrage before, that is going to play a role. I don't know how quickly that's going to play a role, but there's certainly programs, particularly out in California, very strong programs with overnight EV charging, where you get a huge discount on the rate. I know we have some EV programs here in New Jersey, but the cost differential is nowhere near like California. In California, you could pay 55 cents a kilowatt hour to charge your EV at 6 o'clock at night and 12 cents to charge it after midnight. It's that much of a difference. And I think incentivizing EV charging programs like that will get people to charge overnight. As long as your car's charged in the morning, what do you care when you charge it? In most instances, there's going to be some times where you need to charge now because you have to go somewhere, but we generally, many of the utilities will tell you they have excess capacity overnight. And if we could shift the charging to vehicles overnight, and you can program your car to not charge until a specific time when that program kicks in, I think that there's a lot of different ways to skin this cat. And I really don't believe, I have not found a single person that works, and these are high-level management tier people that have worked at a utility that have told me we can't do this, or it's going to be a nightmare. Like, I don't know how we're ever going to get there. Almost all of them, and I've talked to dozens of people in this industry over the last 10 years or so. Almost all of them have said, just tell us when it's coming and we'll be ready for it.
Wow, that's great news. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, guys. So it's top of the hour. We are already actually like 13, 14 minutes behind. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you, Tom, for joining us. It was fantastic to learn more about charging, home charging, as well as public charging and fast charging.
Yeah, before we go, I'm going to
yes.
just show everybody what my garage looks like.
Yes.
You see a couple chargers behind me, but what you didn't see was this.
Right.
I've got like over 100 electric vehicle chargers in the garage that I review and use for different events and stuff. So probably I would say that in this garage here in our great state of New Jersey, there are more electric vehicle chargers than any single place in the state, in the country, except warehouses that build the things. I guess a wider variety is what I was going to say. But thanks for having me, Stan. And if you want me to come on again in the future, let me know. I'm always up to chat with you guys. This has been really good. And keep plugging in, guys. This transition is inevitable. It's just a matter of how long is it going to take. That's how I look at it.